Welcome to Project Insight's Power Tutorial Series. Today we're excited to show you how to replace Microsoft Project Online with a more flexible, intuitive, and collaborative solution, Project Insight. As Microsoft Project Online reaches its end of life, organizations are reassessing their options, discover how Project Insight can provide equivalent or expanded functionality in a more flexible, easier to use platform. Today's session, we're going to cover the idea of how Project Insight can import projects, how it can handle the project scheduling, task management, resource planning, how we can then interact and collaborate with our teams without any extra tools or silos, seamlessly report on all of the work and the effort that our teams are doing, and understand how we can leverage integrations such as Teams, DevOps, Jira, in order to have our teams connect in with other platforms as well. This tutorial is designed to show you not just how to match the capabilities of Project Online, but how you can go beyond that if the organization wishes to. A few housekeeping notes. We do have a lot to get through today, so we are going to be answering questions via the chat. We encourage you to use that as we go along. This session will run for about 30 minutes, and you will be able to access this recording at the same link you joined from. My name is Mathew Sparks. I'm the Director of Sales and Business Development here at Project Insight, and with me is Steve West, one of our co-founders and our CEO. Steve, you ready to get going?
Yeah, I'm definitely ready to go. Let's get into this.
Wonderful. So, first and foremost, we want to really just talk about what is happening and make sure that everybody understands the timelines. Here we are today in March of 2026, and we are able to operate as usual. Next month, our wind down of MS Project Online is slated to begin with full retirement in September or a little bit later this year. The trick with this is, we are being asked to leave our unified platform of MS Project Online and transition into these three additional tools that Microsoft is going to be supporting. Planner, that's where we'll actually execute our work out of. Power Platform, where we will be able to do our reporting out of. And then Microsoft Teams, where we can communicate and collaborate at that point in time. Steve, something you wanted to add there?
No, let's keep going.
Okay. The trick here, though, is that these different planner options and the options holistically being offered to us may not support what we're doing within our existing project online.
It's definitely more complicated now. You can see here the pricing is difficult to understand. And what's really great is Project Insight is just got one simple low price that you can use, and we cover pretty much all of the features that you already have today without having to cobble tools together.
Yeah, I think that's a really great way to describe it, Steve, is, we had access to this, full criteria of what we could do. Our different planner options will be able to let us do different pieces. Project Insight, though, covers all of those core competencies that we're losing, and, for a price point that, is often less for our enterprise customers, especially because the more users you have, the less you pay with us, right?
Yeah, and as you'll see as we get into it, Project Insight was designed to work with Microsoft Project from the get-go as well. So you'll see how this is going to be not as difficult a transition as it may seem.
Yeah, thanks for calling that out, Steve, because I think sometimes we get really stressed about this kind of transition, right? And the change management that happens with this. We have made it pretty seamless, so that way you can go from these active projects in one tool, move them over, and then begin working them within Project Insight.
Right, and Project Insight's basically a Microsoft platform as it is. I mean, we host all in Azure. We've been a Microsoft partner for more than 2 decades, and our tool already works seamlessly with the whole entire Office environment. It's just that, we've always positioned ourselves as an alternative to Microsoft Project Online, and so this transition could be really seamless for most people that need to do this.
That's right. So what we're going to do now is we're going to show you how we can get that done, right?
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Project Insight. So I'm here. I'm on a home screen within our application here, Project Insight, where I can see icons and notifications that pertain to me as an individual user. So these are the projects that I'm on. These are the tasks that I'm associated with, and so on. I can also see on this page the core parts of Project Insight that have been enabled for work within my organization, right? So that's all controlled by what we call the add-ons, which are kind of the feature sets that you might need to use. They all are all included in the enterprise license. So if you want to have a project intake process, you can turn on project requests and then have a custom form to kick off work or prioritize it before we actually start a project. If you want to have a governance part of that, you can turn on the approvals and then, Steve, you can trust but verify when I say I get my work done. It can go to you immediately for approval there afterward. Or even capture time. I can enable the time tracking function. All of our end users have an input method there, and then that does cascade seamlessly through the tool. So,
yeah, and I think this screen is really important because even though Project Insight does the basics for project management that you would expect from Project Online, we've always done more than just that. Meaning you've been able to have proposals to billing out your clients, to building out invoice records, doing a full time tracking, not just keeping track of time on tasks, but like literally a time tracking system baked into project management system, approval routing system baked into project management system. So this screen is where someone jumps off, and we've also had a slightly more user-centric view for people, meaning it doesn't matter if your team is doing projects for one project or 20 projects, they know they can trust to come to this home screen, go to their work list, see what they need to do across all the projects in the organization, whether they come from Project Insight, Jira, or DevOps. So it's a little bit different experience for the team members in our tool than, say, Project Online has been.
And we'll go through that individual experience in a little bit, and we'll even talk about the Teams application as well, which can give you a little bit of familiarity in that transition, right? I'm used to seeing Steve in my little Teams window all the time. I can stay there and execute our project work as well. So one of those different add-ons that you can enable gives me the ability to track programs in portfolios. And that's actually where we're going to start, just to have a high-level picture of what's possible, and then we'll talk about the import and the project-level details. What we've done here is we've clicked into one of our portfolios, and you can have multiple, right? You're not limited to one, you can have many. A portfolio allows me to group together programs or groups of projects and projects together to be a part of that work that we're working on, a specific initiative together. Below here, I can see all of the projects in this overview screen, which acts as a report, all of the projects that are within my particular portfolio. One of the very common themes of Project Insight is anywhere where you see these list views, it's a drag and drop system. I can right click to get in the fields that I want to see. In that way, Steve, who's in charge of the organization, might look at a different layout compared to me, who might just be managing my projects and moving things forward, right? So the nice piece, though, about these portfolio or program views is then I have some predefined ways to interact with this grouping of projects without having to build a report or go through anything else. I can, see all of these via a cross-project Gantt chart, so I can understand over time how these are performing. This here, these diamonds are the milestones that are happening within each of these particular projects. I can see where I should be and how we're progressing over based on the progress within the work here. These, and we'll talk a little bit more about this as we get into the reporting, but these can be exported into Excel or into a PDF if you need to. You also have the ability to look at the projects on boards. So that way you can do things like move them across their life cycle, which is what we're looking at here by the work status, or I can prioritize the projects that we're doing and make sure that, we're taking care of the critical items first and then working our way down. These are all drag and drop to move from one to another, and then I can click to access the project as well. Although, Steve, it's drag and drop with permissions, right? I have to have this skill, the user perms to be able to come in here and one, view these views, but then two, be able to interact with the projects as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, what you're looking at is more of like the PMOs view. Normally, users might not interact with the program or the portfolio level. But what's really great too is that all of these views you see, everything you're going to see in Project Insight, all the data is updated in real time. Meaning the projects are all hot online. There's no like offloading process. When you see like capacity reports, that data is in real time. If someone makes an update, right? 1 minute before you run that report, it's going to show you what is the new capacity, not like waiting 30 minutes. A lot of tools out there have these offline processes. I think even Microsoft Project kind of required you to update the resource pool in order to actually see stuff like that. So Project Insight doesn't work like that. Everything's hot online. If you edit it one view, it changes immediately in the other views.
Yeah, I was just speaking with somebody the other day about that, Steve, and they were mind blown because they're used to a 12-hour delay, right, in anything like that. So the other piece, I can get into my RAID log or my meeting minutes, and we'll continue to kind of talk through that on the project level. But you can also access the task lists for all of these projects on one view. What this does is it groups them together by the program that they're affiliated with. And then I can drill in and see the actual individual projects underneath it. As I expand, I can see the tasks that are there. I can even, again, with the appropriate permissions, modify right here. So rather than me being that leader in the PMO or the person in charge of this program or portfolio, I don't need to go project by project to be able to edit this. I can do so right here from the portfolio or program screen.
Yeah, I mean, basically you get effectively your program and your portfolio are parent projects and your projects are sub projects. People ask about that all the time, like, hey, do sub projects? Well, yeah, you do them through organizing them through your programs, and as well as cross project dependencies between projects as well. Those are all online. They can be edited right from this screen. Normally the screen is probably not where you would edit a project plan, but sometimes you do because you're looking at 3 projects at one time. Hey, what do I got to do here? Oh, let's adjust this right here. You don't have to leave.
Or I'm looking at my bookings of projects and I want to say, what's overdue, right? I need to just run a quick filter to say, what do I need to address right this moment because it's what's on fire, right?
Yeah, and that's like overdue across the whole portfolio all at once, not just in one project.
Exactly. So the way in which we can add these projects, right, so that they can be a part of this program or portfolio or affiliated with the type of work we're doing or anything else is really simple, and we're going to talk that through now. I'm going to start on the overview page, although I don't necessarily need to. I can go to the project's home or other places to add a new project, and I'm going to just say, hey, let's create a new project here. As I do, I'm going to be met with the project add or edit screen where I can come in here and say, this is my new project or whatever name we're going to give this. If we are using a template that's been established within Project Insight, I can utilize that right now. For the time being, we're not. We're going to go through the process of importing a project file. But if we've already done that, we can then templatize it and then continue to use that.
Yeah, and real quick thing, you're looking at the project add form. This is customizable. You can change which fields appear here. You can add your own custom fields. Anything you see today and anything in our Project Insight, you can modify the way the screen looks by toggling on and off what fields you want and adding your own custom fields and have them be reportable. So this is just a basic form we're showing right here, but it can be tailored to your specific needs, especially project request forms. Those tend to be like very unique by customer. So Project Insight can handle all of that.
All out of the box with your mouse, right? I can do that myself, Steve. I don't need you to program or do something. Right.
Yeah, just you can say, oh, I want a combo box, or I want a checkbox. I need a date here. This can be done by non-programmers.
Yeah, proof I can do it, right? As far as that's concerned. Right. So the other part of that equation is if I've not turned on the add-on for priority or we're not tracking type, I'm not met with these options at that point either. And concept is don't clutter your workspace with things that are not relevant to the organization, right?
Right,
So,
and you just saw some drop downs there. Type is built in, priority is built in, but those values you see in those drop downs can be specific to your organization.
that's right. So, in any case, what we're going to do, I have the ability, if I want to, use my project file from the inception point of the project. I can do so just the same way that I can use a template to start. For the time being, though, we're just going to start blank and just save this new project shell. When we do this, we're met with one of many views and ways to interact with this particular project. This is the task list, though, right? So this is, ultimately where those assignments are going to be driven from and what we can check on. I have the ability to come from here and actually start this whole WBS with AI if I preferred, right? So if I'm not 100% certain as to how to get this work done, Project Insight can step in and assist us. That can be templatized. If I prefer to import items from an Excel file, I can do that as well. What we're going to do right now is this import via project. So I'm going to click on project. Project Insight is extremely helpful, and it gives me a little video on how do I do this. So if I'm a novice and I've not yet done this, I can go through here and follow this guide. For the time being, though, I know what I'm doing. I'm going to go ahead and just drag my file in right here, and then I'm going to go ahead and click this upload option. As this happens, we're now met with a wizard, right, Steve? A little kind of mapping document here.
Yeah, I mean, what you saw there is he dragged his Microsoft Project XML. You save as XML out of Microsoft Project, and then from here, there's some choices. Like I said before, this import routine we've had for more than 2 decades. This has been one of the things that we started Project Insight being able to do was import into the Microsoft Project XML, export back out to Microsoft Project XML, and our algorithm is very closely tied to the way the Microsoft Project works. So you should see everything come in seamlessly.
That's right. And one of the other things that's really helpful for people who are making transitions like this, either forced or because of choice, right? They want more feature sets, is this gives you the ability to either map to a user, or if that user exists, it finds them like it did for myself. Right. Or I can create a new inactive user right here. So in that way, my user management part is being done for me as I complete the import, and I don't need to worry about the resources being created and then the project. I can kind of do it in whatever order makes sense for us.
Right, and like he said, those are inactive users, so they're meaning like their resources in Project Insight. They are not part of anything that you'll be charged for until you activate them in the user management panel. So you can feel like free to go ahead and add people. Now, the only caution here is sometimes project has people named all differently, but if you're using online, it should be consistent. But if people are using desktop, sometimes they use initials. That's what this mapping helps you do, is say, oh, I know Andrew Martinez is a user or resource already. It might be Andy in our tool.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. Or it might have been Andy in my project file, exactly. But we've got him, met up from Intra, and it says it's Andrew, right? So, yeah.
Right. And that's why we have this mapping right here so that you can do it. Anyway, you can also see there's resource type mapping too.
Yep, that's what I was just going to get to. There are other options around resource type or just the way in which it imports.
Yeah, so and what that is like if Andy is a developer, you could say anything that's Andy should go to developer in Project Insight. Right. Because not only, this is a little nuanced difference. Project Insight allows you to assign tasks to a person, but also to the resource type and not they don't conflict with each other and they do in MS Project.
Yeah, which becomes really handy for actually assigning to a team and letting them take it on as they may need to. So, in any case, what we're going to do is just click save, right? I'm not going to map anything or create any new users. I'm going to just save it. It's going to bring that project in from, that project file in. It's going to create that task list within Project Insight here. If these items had been in progress or in done, that was some of those options where I can say, bring it in with the exact status that it's in this moment. But then all of this can be worked within Project Insight, which we'll talk about here in just a moment on another project.
Yeah, and you'll note that we preserved all the predecessor relationships. Whether there's constraints in Microsoft Project, those will be held, like start earlier than, must start on. That information is preserved in this import.
That's right. And then again, that can be templatized, and you can redeploy that if you want, or you can just import and import and import and import. There is one additional way that you can bulk get your new projects into our application, and that's by doing this kind of ability to bulk import in bulk, the import in bulk. So I'm on my project's homepage. These three little dots give me the ability to bulk import projects. And what that will do is that first step that we just completed where it created the project's shell with the appropriate dispositions, right? It's this type of work, or it's serving this customer, or whatever that might look like, or a combination of those two steps by importing from by importing the project names, and the task lists underneath. So I think Steve and I were talking about this, and a lot of customers do this one by one because they have their project managers kind of go through this flow themselves. But if you do want to, you can go through and do them faster and get your whole portfolio in pretty quickly. So
yeah, and the bulk import from projects and tasks is an Excel style import.
Yep.
So if you have systems like other tools, you can do that. That's a lot of times if someone's coming from another tool, they'll use that particular import.
And still the same video and a little template on how to do it if you go that route. So
yeah, and I think if you have like thousands of projects, you should go that route. But if you only have 50, 100 projects, probably one at a time is the best approach if you can take the time to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the joy of the time is it takes 2 minutes, right, Steve? I mean, it's just export, import, and that's
right.
it.
I mean, if you have 1,000 tasks, it still takes just a few seconds to get that all in. So you don't have to type it back in. But it is nice to be able to do it and see exactly what's going on each project.
That's right. And then once we do have those data points or our projects or whatever we're tracking within Project Insight, we have the ability to then manage all of that right within our one singular application. So this is a project that's in flight. I can see that I've completed some of these tasks and it's green, although that is customizable, right, Steve? If I wanted it to be, blue, I could say blue for done if that's what I cared to. But
yeah, and people always ask about that, percent complete and all of those kinds of values come in. You'll see in Project Insight, we do try to allow the team member to use a status for percent complete because most people don't know, like, oh, I'm 22.5% done. They just know I'm in the middle of it, or I'm almost done, or I'm done. That's our default. You don't have to do it that way. You can do it the way you have been doing it, but there are some things that make Project Insight a lot easier to use than even Microsoft Project was.
Yeah, I think one of the ones is just, again, the drag and drop of the columns, or the fact that if I don't want to use percent complete, I just want to know if it's done or not, right? I can just drop that column out and boom, this is
and you can save your layouts the way, you can say, this is what I want every time I open a project, I want my personal layout so that you get the columns you care about, and it'll open, any new project would open with that layout you saved.
And
he has a bunch of them right there.
That's right. I think that's really important too as it pertains to what you're tracking, right? In this particular case, we're looking at the planned hours versus the actual hours and what the difference is. You can do the same things with fiscal numbers or really anything for that matter, and be able to see that. The other, I think, huge win within Project Insight is that, this task draft charter, which is really what's happening currently, you can see the resources associated with it. One, I've got more than one, and their allocation is associated differently to get this task completed. I can peek in on their capacity to make sure that they're the appropriate, they have the right bandwidth to be able to do this. And if not, I can use Project Insight's AI tools to suggest an alternate resource who has that same skill set and maybe better bandwidth to be able to do so.
Right, and that's capacity across the whole entire system, not just what's the capacity in this one project. What you're seeing is the capacity across all the projects. And this is an area where we were just always better than Microsoft Project anyway. Just flat out better at this kind of stuff.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think I've seen so many people have to merge everything into one project, and then that becomes really difficult for them to manage, right, Steve?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, you'd have to go to the resource pool and do all this, and maybe it wouldn't be updated because the project manager didn't hit the button quite right. So you don't have to worry about that with the way Project Insight works, because this is all real time. And you just saw a quick, we're not going to get into it, but there was a dialogue there. We even told you, hey, you're over. Are you sure you want to do this? That's an option.
We do have some additional power tutorials we'll send out as a part of this follow-up that covers some of those other pieces as well. Steve had mentioned a little bit ago the idea of the individual's work list. So I, Mathew Sparks, am drafting this charter during this time. I might not want to go from project to project to project to figure out what I need to do. And that's really why we've created the work list, is it provides all of my assignments that are timely that I need to do now on one screen. So I can see, the type of item, the project it's driven from. As you can see here, I'm on multiple projects. Steve mentioned a little bit ago the idea of team assignment, and that's what these outlines are. So I can say, I just need any risk manager to do this, or any engineer, or any whatever the role is. And then if I'm in that role, I can help take that work on.
Right, and what you're seeing here are tasks in projects, but also out of band things like issues that got assigned, or actions that get assigned out of meeting minutes, or approvals that need to be looked at. So it's everything that you need to do, regardless of whether it's part of a project or not, all on one screen. Again, this is relevant things too. So if something's scheduled way out in the future, it won't show up here until the dates get close.
That's right. Or as I mark them as complete, right, they're going to drop off my list here.
Yeah.
Again, that idea of instantness, we're going to watch this task right here, draft charter, go to complete, right, and done, because I've marked it as complete within my my work list here. The other part that is extremely handy here that we kind of led with a little bit ago is that if I'm using Teams, because Project Insight is a Microsoft partner, I can just use our Teams application to access this kind of data. So I can get into my work list, I can log time, I can log expenses, or heck, I can even get into the project level data and make those assignments happen, right here from my Teams application, as opposed to using the browser. So,
yeah, and this doesn't cost any extra or anything like that. It just comes with the enterprise tool right out of the box. Actually, I think even the lower levels can use Teams as well. So
that's
the
right.
whole Team app is a free add-on as part of our service.
And if you're used to that project look, right, Steve, I've got my Gantt chart as one of my mini views. It's the exact same experience that we had just had, where I can get the columns in whatever order I want. But now I have the Gantt where I can drag and drop or create dependencies and kind of connect it the way that I want to. So
yep.
We do also have 3 Kanban boards where I can visualize these tasks. Our RAID log is built right in here as well, which we've done other tutorials on, and we'll make sure to share those as well, where it goes into these different components in greater detail. But the key part here is that all of my features, all of the needs that I have are in one central spot. I can notify Steve automatically. He can get the work done, and then that can move my progress forward on my project, which will then roll the project, the progress forward on my portfolio as a whole as we go through.
Yeah, and one thing we just didn't even mention earlier, we did allude to it, but these projects that are coming in from Microsoft Project, they can be mapped to Microsoft DevOps and synchronized with DevOps projects or epics in there. And you can actually have a hybrid combined view of things that are in Project Insight alone and things in DevOps for a view, or Jira. And that is something that is very popular with a lot of our customers, because the PMs get don't have to go into two different systems and figure this all out. They can actually see DevOps data in their projects or a DevOps project standalone in the portfolio and get reporting on that all automatically without having to do it manually in Excel or whatever.
Yeah, I think that's also true of like some of our financial integrations as well for the expenses and plan values, right? We can do that with tools like NetSuite as well and kind of get those in. That will then automatically create all of the reporting here where, again, Microsoft partner, we can move this into Power BI, but I can also just come right into the Project Insight reporting home and generate any of these reports that I may want to myself. So again, I can, run these as a cross-project Gantt. I can change the scale if I need to look at these differently. I can look at all of these just on a flat project report. This works the same way that the other screens with the filter and the layouts do, where I can save my predefined views and look at those as opposed to what Steve might be looking at as a rung up higher, right?
So there's a whole lot more than we're just touching the surface on these things to show people that maybe don't know who we are, what's going on. Please reach out to us if you have any questions. We'll be more than happy to go through in greater detail with you about how to handle this situation. We're here to help you.
That's right. We are. We have a tremendous amount of self-help resources. A guide included here, and that we'll be sending out as a part of the follow-up as well, is there for you to be able to understand how to import and then leverage Project Insight. Once we have built all of the reports that we need, whether they're task or resource or budget, we can then turn all of those into one dashboard to have one central place to view all of the work that's happening, as opposed to going one by one. So
yeah, I think we're out of time, Matt.
We are, yeah. I know we're getting caned.
We didn't get through it quite all, but we got most of it there.
The other part to note is please join Steve and I and Diana upcoming on the 18th of March for our faster iterations using AI. That's our PDU series, so professional development. And we really appreciate everybody being here today. Thank you very much. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks.